coming up next week is World's AIDS Day. Now, there's an event happening at the River Cree Resort on December 1st from 5 until 9 o'clock. In the studio with me right now is Denise Lambert. How are you, Denise?
I'm good, thank you.
So let's talk about the event at River Cree. Tell us all about it.
So we have the Enoch Cree Nation through their Health Services Department in partnership with Kimamo Tuscano Foundation are spending the evening from 5 until 10 talking about HIV and how it is affecting Indigenous communities in Alberta in observance of the World AIDS Day event around the world and to kick off Aboriginal AIDS Awareness Week, which is December 1st to 5th.
Some amazing speakers are going to be taking part in that, especially with Ken Ward. Tell us about Ken.
Well, Ken, I say that he's not only my role model, he validated some of the work in the early days. He was the first First Nations individual who went public with his diagnosis. He was diagnosed in December of 1989 and has been a leader within the HIV movement in Canada for that entire period. And so this evening, Determined for Life, is to talk about his contributions to the movement, as well as to highlight some of the other individuals in the community who have contributed to increasing awareness about HIV and ensuring that there is support for people that are diagnosed.
Do we know much about how World's AIDS Day began?
It's what I would call a global initiative. There's a lot of focus on the Red Ribbon Awareness Campaign. I'm not sure entirely of the origins of World AIDS Day. I know that it's been in effect for several years, and each year there's a different theme that occurs, and organizations around the world all on that day organize events and activities to increase awareness of HIV.
Now, a couple other speakers going to be taking part in the Aboriginal Awareness event on December 1st. Who else will be there?
So we have Marlis Taylor, who is the program manager for Streetworks, and I know Marlis personally, and she has been on the forefront, particularly with our family members who are involved in injection drug use. She's been at Streetworks for a number of years, and she's currently been appointed to the Alberta Health Board in the province. That's a recent appointment, so I'm really interested in what she has to say about this movement within our communities.
We also have Tony Alexis. He will be there, Treaty 6 Grand Chief, and Treaty 8 Grand Chief Steve Corderell there. Now, it takes place at River Cree Resort. There's also going to be on Friday some new stats which will be unveiled, HIV stats. And, of course, we know that every year it seems to increase.
Yes, the Public Health Agency of Canada is doing their most current statistics, and with statistics we are usually a number of years behind. The most recent stats we have are for 2013, both federally and provincially, so we're quite interested to know what has changed. The last predictions and estimates that they made actually were lower than what actually happened in terms of the number of cases that were diagnosed, so it'll be interesting to find out what that shows on Friday.
Now, last week, of course, Big Star came out and admitted that he was HIV positive. I'm talking about Charlie Sheen. That must have opened the door for a lot of people that are, I guess kind of in the dark about having the HIV virus.
Yes, the public acknowledgement of Charlie Sheen in stating that he is HIV positive and that he has been for some time created a lot of ripples of information around the world. I was actually at the Healing Our Spirit Worldwide Conference, and it was a huge piece of information, and we've had some of our international leaders come forward and say hopefully he will be able to put energy towards increasing awareness and removing some of the stigma associated with the diagnosis and work for some of us to strengthen our activism on the ground.
What's the difference between being HIV positive and having AIDS?
So if a person is diagnosed with HIV, it means that they have the virus in their system and are able to transmit it to other individuals. AIDS is one of the earlier terms that was used, that was commonly referred to now as the later stage of the disease. With our current treatment, some people can maintain an HIV diagnosis for decades.
And that's kind of like Ken. I mean, he was diagnosed with it back March 1990. and he's still going strong.
Yeah, actually, December 1989 is when he received that little piece of information from his doctor, and it was March of 1990 where he came forward in front of a health assembly. And as you know, in our communities, health, we're always challenged with a number of disparities. So he got the support of the elders and many community leaders at a leadership and health rally at that point. So he has been an activist for decades.
Wow. Definitely going to try and get him on the show next week. Would love to have him on. Let's talk about the disease with the Aboriginal population. I know new stats are going to be coming out on Friday, but do we know the link towards Aboriginal people with that?
Yes, there is a lot of attention that is paid to how statistics are portrayed and how usually we are framed as deficit-based or we have a disproportionate overrepresentation. What we have found is that statistics can be moved around in ways to suit whoever is actually stating them, and we find it more important to tell the individual story and to let people know that if you've been diagnosed, that there is support and that it is really important to talk about it. There are a number of historical factors that we can look at for a variety of our health issues right now. HIV is one that is challenged more because injection drug use comes into play, as well as we're talking about sexual transmission, and still people have some difficulty talking openly about sexuality.
Exactly. And I think the good thing about that, especially with younger kids, it seems to be getting implemented younger in life, talking about sexuality.
Yes, we find that some of the strategies for increasing people's comfort is, first of all, being able to acknowledge some of the perhaps shame that we've been carrying around sexuality and some of the teachings that came through our residential school situations, and to now where it is viewed as a part of the life course, and there's healthy sexuality throughout the life cycle, and the more that we're able to talk about it, the better. I know that some of the diagnoses in terms of the range of age for HIV diagnosis, at the last stats in Alberta, they went from like babies to seniors, so
wow.
Individuals in their 60s that were being newly diagnosed.
Wow.
So it's important to talk about this at all ages.
Exactly. Before I let you go, let's talk about stigmas. We touched on that briefly, but things kind of irk me when, people talk and they think they know it all. Like, I can't shake his or her hand. I can't sit in that seat. Tell us the facts briefly about HIV and AIDS.
So with HIV, it's pretty clear that there are main ways that you get it. So HIV is transmitted primarily in the blood through sexual activity, and sometimes, not that often, perhaps from an HIV positive mother to her child.
Right.
So it's carried in blood, semen, vaginal fluid, and breast milk. It's fairly straightforward how you get HIV. You have to have close, intimate contact, body to body, body fluid contact. So that's the key.
All right. World's AIDS Day is coming up Tuesday, December 1st. Again, the Aboriginal Awareness Event happening at the Edmonton Marriott River Cree Resort on the 1st between 5 and 9. Denise Lambert, where can people go if they need more information?
You can actually check out, we have a Facebook page. There is can.ca, CAAN.ca, who also is promoting activities across Canada. You can contact Marlene Patra, whose name I believe is on your poster.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
And there will be, I'm sure, other press and media information that will follow. But it's open to the public 5 to 9 or 5 to 10. I believe there's going to be entertainment and also a video or a display of Ken's life and some of his contributions.
Oh, cool.